New York City, 11:47 p.m. The skyline of Manhattan glittered like diamonds scattered across velvet. Inside the glass-walled penthouse on Fifth Avenue, everything was calm, too calm. A soft jazz tune hummed through the surround speakers, the kind of music rich people played to hide the noise in their hearts. Maya Ellis sat alone on a white leather sofa, her hand resting gently on her 7-month pregnant belly. A half-finished glass of sparkling water sat next to a closed Tiffany box on the coffee table. Her husband, Lucas Vaughn, the billionaire philanthropist, was supposed to be home an hour ago. She stared at the city lights reflected in the glass, whispering, "You promised, Lucas. You promised tonight was ours." Her phone buzzed. A text. "Running late. Don't wait up." Simple. Cold. Empty. Maya's chest tightened. For months she had ignored the signs. Late meetings, perfume on his coat, whispered calls on his iPhone that stopped the moment she entered the room. Tonight, something felt different. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was warning her. The elevator chimed. Her heart skipped. Footsteps echoed. She smiled faintly, brushing her hair, whispering, "Finally." But it wasn't Lucas. Sophie Hart stepped into the living room, heels clicking on marble. Her crimson dress caught the chandelier's light like blood in champagne. Sophie, Lucas's PR consultant, and the woman Maya had long suspected. "What are you doing here?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. Sophie smiled, a slow, poisoned smile. "He's not coming home, Maya. He's with me. Always has been." Maya froze. "You need to leave." Sophie took a step closer. "You're just the image, the perfect wife for the magazines. But I'm the one he loves. You and that baby, nothing but an inconvenience." Before Maya could respond, Sophie lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. Maya stumbled backward, pain surging through her stomach. "Stop! I'm pregnant!" she cried. Sophie's eyes flared. "Exactly." A crash echoed through the penthouse as the glass table shattered. The world blurred. Maya fell, gasping, clutching her belly. Upstairs, a young girl, Emma, Sophie's 12-year-old daughter, heard the chaos. She had come along quietly, waiting in the car, bored of her mother's late-night meetings. When the shouting began, she ran inside, iPhone in hand. The camera trembled as she crept down the stairs. "Mom? Mrs. Vaughn?" Then she saw it, the billionaire's pregnant wife lying on the floor, blood on her hand. Sophie standing above her, shaking, eyes wide with rage. Emma's voice cracked. "Mom, stop. You're hurting her." Sophie turned, screaming, "Go back to the car." Emma, crying, pressed 911. "There's blood, please. Someone's hurt. My mom's hurting someone." The operator's voice echoed faintly through the phone. "Stay calm. Tell me where you are." But Emma didn't stop recording. Her little hands trembled, capturing every second the shattered glass, the screams, the shadow of a man entering through the side door, Lucas. He froze for a moment, eyes darting between the two women. Then, unbelievably, he whispered, "What did you do?" Not to Sophie, but to Maya. Emma's sobs grew louder. The camera shook violently, the sound of sirens swelling in the distance, and then static. The phone slipped from her hands. The video ended mid-scream. That recording would disappear for months until one day it resurfaced, revealing everything Lucas tried to bury. The morning sun spilled through the tall windows of the Vaughn penthouse, brushing across the marble floor like liquid gold. Maya Ellis moved quietly through the kitchen, humming to herself as she arranged fresh tulips in a vase. Everything in her world looked perfect: the soft aroma of Starbucks coffee, the sound of gentle jazz, the view of Central Park shimmering beyond the glass. To anyone watching, she was the dream wife. Married to one of America's youngest billionaires, living in a home worth more than most people could imagine. Yet, behind every graceful movement, there was a subtle tension in her eyes, something fragile, like glass on the edge of breaking. Lucas Vaughn entered the kitchen, wearing his signature navy suit and a Mont Blanc pen tucked in his pocket. He kissed her forehead mechanically, already scrolling through emails on his iPhone. "You're leaving already?" she asked softly. "Board meeting at Park Avenue. Investors are flying in from San Francisco," he replied, not looking up. She tried to smile. "Don't forget dinner tonight." The baby shower planning. He cut her off. We'll talk later, Maya. I've got a lot on my plate. He left, the elevator doors closing with a sound too final for morning. Maya exhaled slowly, staring at the untouched breakfast she'd prepared for two. Then she pressed her hand against her belly, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll be fine." The doorbell rang. It was Olivia Grant, her best friend and former assistant, carrying 2 Starbucks cups and a familiar warmth that made the penthouse feel human again. "You look tired," Olivia said, handing her a cup. "He's still avoiding you?" Maya forced a chuckle. "He's just busy. Busy men still text their wives," Olivia said flatly. "Something's off, Maya. You know it." Maya hesitated. "You think he's seeing someone?" Olivia gave her a look that said more than words. "I think he's seeing himself, his reflection, his image. And if someone feeds that ego enough, he'll keep them close." The words stung, but Maya didn't argue. Instead, she wandered toward the balcony, looking over Fifth Avenue. Below, life moved in motion cars, people, noise. Up here, everything was still, almost lifeless. That afternoon, she joined Lucas at the Ritz-Carlton for a charity gala. Cameras flashed, laughter echoed, and reporters praised the power couple of Manhattan. Maya smiled on cue, her hand on her belly, while Lucas kept one arm around her and another around Sophie Hart, his PR executive. Sophie was charming, confident, dressed in silver Dior that shimmered under the chandelier. Every time she leaned toward Lucas, Maya's stomach twisted not from pregnancy, but from intuition. The rain came down in thin silver lines across the skyline, washing the city in reflections. Maya Ellis sat in her Mercedes outside Lucas's corporate tower, watching his office lights burn through the fog. He had texted her earlier, "Running late again, don't wait." That night, in their car, Maya confronted him gently. "You know what people are saying about Sophie." Lucas sighed. "People talk. It's business." "Is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Because business doesn't smell like her perfume." For a moment, his eyes hardened. Then he said coldly, "If you want to stay in this world, Maya, learn to play the part. Be the wife, not the detective." He turned away, checking his phone, ending the conversation like closing a deal. Maya looked out the window as the city lights blurred into gold and rain. Inside her chest, something broke quietly, a promise, a belief, maybe even love itself. And somewhere deep inside, she knew the woman in silver wasn't done with her yet. But she waited anyway. Inside the car, the dashboard clock blinked past midnight. She rested her hand on her stomach, the rhythmic hum of the rain blending with the baby's soft kicks. "We're still here," she whispered, forcing a smile. Down the sidewalk, a black car pulled up. The passenger door opened, and through the blur of streetlights, Maya saw her husband step out, umbrella in hand. He wasn't alone. Sophie Hart followed close behind, her laughter slicing through the sound of the rain like glass. Lucas held the umbrella over her, shielding her from the drizzle, their faces inches apart. Maya's breath caught. She fumbled for her phone but froze. Taking a picture would make it real, and she wasn't ready for that kind of truth. The next morning, Lucas walked into the penthouse as if nothing had happened. His hair was damp, his expression unreadable. "Long night?" she asked. He looked at her, then at the tulips she'd replaced on the dining table. "Don't start." "I didn't say anything." "You're thinking it," he said, pouring himself espresso. "You always are." Maya looked at him, the man she once adored, now a stranger hiding behind designer suits and ambition. "I'm just trying to understand you, Lucas." "Then stop trying," he said, grabbing his briefcase. "I'm not the one who's changed." The door slammed. The echo stayed. That afternoon, Olivia visited again, carrying a small white envelope. "You need to see this," she said. Inside were printed photos Lucas and Sophie at a rooftop lounge in Beverly Hills during his business trip. His hand on her back, her head on his shoulder. Maya's throat tightened. "Where did you get these?" Olivia hesitated. "One of the reporters from the charity event sent them anonymously. Said you deserved to know." Maya's mind spun. The betrayal wasn't just romantic, it was public. She had become a character in someone else's secret. That night, she couldn't sleep. The city hummed below, and she wandered into the nursery they had designed together. Soft pastel walls, a white crib, a rocking chair by the window. Everything screamed hope until now. She sat down, opening her old MacBook Air, scrolling through their photos, vacations in the Hamptons, holidays in Aspen, their wedding at the Plaza Hotel. Every smile, every touch, suddenly looked rehearsed. Then she stopped at one picture, Lucas holding her during their honeymoon. His hand was already on his phone. Even then, he was somewhere else. Tears blurred her vision. She whispered, "I built this life around a ghost." The next morning, she confronted him again. "I know about Sophie," she said. He didn't deny it. He simply looked at her with a chilling calm. "You knew before you admitted it. That's on you." "On me?" she snapped. "You betrayed our family." Lucas leaned closer, voice cold as steel. "Don't make this messy, Maya. You have everything you wanted. Stay quiet. Smile for the cameras. And we'll both get what we need." Her heart pounded. "And what's that?" He smirked. "Control." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he left, leaving her in the echo of his arrogance. Maya sank to the floor, trembling. Outside, the glass walls shimmered with sunlight breaking through clouds, bright but fractured. And in that reflection, she finally saw it. Her perfect life wasn't breaking. It had already shattered. The scent of jasmine drifted through the terrace of the Beverly Hills Hotel, where Sophie Hart leaned back against a velvet chair, legs crossed, sunglasses reflecting the shimmer of a turquoise pool. She looked like the kind of woman who knew exactly what she wanted and how to get it. Across from her sat Lucas Vaughn, the billionaire who thought he owned every room he entered. He was half listening to her pitch about brand engagement strategies for his foundation, but mostly, he was watching the way sunlight kissed her collarbone. Sophie noticed. She smiled slightly. The kind of smile that invited trouble and then pretended to be surprised when it arrived. "Lucas," she said, lowering her voice, "what do you really want out of this charity? Be honest." He leaned back, sipping his espresso. "Legacy. People don't remember the deals, they remember the name on the building." Sophie tilted her head. "So you want to be remembered?" Has smirked. "Don't we all?" Their eyes met, the unspoken promise hovering between them. The waiter brought another round of coffee, placing a small silver spoon on the table. Sophie stirred hers slowly, watching him. "You know, I used to dream of working for someone like you," she said softly. "A man who makes things happen." Lucas chuckled. "Careful, Sophie. That sounds dangerously close to flattery." "Maybe it is," she replied, her tone almost whispering. "But it's also true." By the time the sun dipped behind the palms, their business meeting had become something else entirely. The line between admiration and desire blurred like the reflection of light on water. That was the first time Lucas didn't go home that night. New York, present day. Maya stood before her vanity, brushing her hair in silence. On the surface, she looked radiant. Pearl earrings, soft blush, a silk robe Lucas had brought from Paris. But her eyes, they carried a quiet storm. The pieces had started to connect. The missed flights, the canceled dinners, the perfume that wasn't hers. Downstairs, Lucas was on a video call with Sophie. Maya could hear the laughter drifting up the stairs, muffled but unmistakable. She walked halfway down the steps, pausing when she saw the glow of the MacBook screen reflecting on his face. Sophie's image filled the frame, hair curled, smile sweet. They weren't talking business anymore. They were sharing secrets, the kind that made Maya's stomach twist. Lucas noticed her shadow and quickly minimized the screen. "You shouldn't eavesdrop," he said. "I live here." She replied coldly. "I'm not eavesdropping. I'm existing." He sighed, impatient. "You're overthinking again." "Then make me stop," she said. "Tell me the truth." He stood, his voice low and sharp. "Don't push me, Maya. You're pregnant. Focus on that." She stared at him, realizing he wasn't trying to protect her, he was trying to silence her. Later that night, she found an email draft on his iPad, unsent but raw. "Sophie, when this is over, we'll finally have the life we deserve." Her heart stopped. The next morning, she visited Olivia. Sitting at the cafe window overlooking Central Park, Maya whispered, "It's real. He's in love with her." Olivia reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Then you need to protect yourself, you and the baby." Maya nodded, tears welling up. "I can't let him destroy me." Olivia looked out at the skyline, voice steady. "Then don't. Let him think he's winning." For now, back at the penthouse, Lucas received a text from Sophie. He smiled, replying, "Don't worry, she won't see it coming." And that night, under the perfect glow of city lights, the woman he betrayed began quietly planning how to survive the storm he had created. The chandeliers burned like frozen fire above the marble ballroom. Guests in tailored tuxedos and shimmering gowns floated through the room like living jewels, their laughter echoing off gold-trimmed walls. Cameras flashed, champagne poured. The Vaughn Foundation's annual gala had begun. For Maya Ellis, it was supposed to be her night. Her 7th month of pregnancy hadn't stopped her from wearing a fitted white Dior gown, the fabric glowing under soft light. She looked radiant, poised, the picture of grace. But inside, her heart was trembling. Lucas was across the room, surrounded by executives, shaking hands with donors. Every smile he gave her was for the cameras. Every word was performance. And then Sophie Hart arrived. She stepped out of a black limousine in a silver gown that caught every flash like liquid mercury. When she entered, conversations quieted for a second, then resumed in a wave of whispers. Her confidence filled the room like perfume. Everyone noticed, including Lucas. Olivia leaned into Maya and whispered, "She's not here for charity." Maya forced a smile. "No. She's here for him." Lucas noticed Sophie immediately. He excused himself from the investors and crossed the floor. The way his hand brushed Sophie's arm looked casual to anyone else but not to Maya. She saw the look in his eyes, the same look that used to belong to her. The orchestra began to play. Waiters glided between guests with trays of champagne and silver platters. Maya tried to focus on her speech, the reason they were all there to raise money for the city's homeless women. But the sight of Lucas and Sophie laughing near the bar made her voice fade. When she finally stepped onto the stage, the crowd applauded. Her speech was printed neatly on cream-colored paper, but her hands shook too much to hold it still. She took a breath. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight isn't just about generosity, it's about hope. It's about..." Her eyes met Lucas's. He wasn't looking at her. He was whispering something to Sophie. Maya's voice cracked. About remembering that no one should ever feel invisible. The crowd applauded politely. She smiled through the ache, finishing with practiced elegance. When she stepped down, Olivia met her with a quiet nod of pride, but Maya could barely breathe. Later that evening, she escaped to the terrace. The city stretched below her, glittering, indifferent. She leaned on the railing, fighting tears. Her reflection in the glass door looked calm, but she barely recognized herself anymore. A familiar voice broke the silence. "Beautiful speech," Sophie said behind her. Maya turned slowly. "What are you doing out here?" Sophie smiled faintly, stepping closer. "Just getting some air. Or maybe checking on you." "I don't need checking on," Maya said, her tone steady. Sophie laughed softly. "You really don't see it, do you? You're holding on to a man who's already gone." Maya's chest tightened. "You think you've won?" Sophie's eyes sparkled with cruel amusement. "It's not a competition, Maya. It's evolution." He moved on. Before Maya could answer, Lucas appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay?" he asked, eyes flicking between them. "Perfect," Sophie said sweetly, brushing past him as if she owned the moment. Lucas turned to Maya. "Don't start a scene." "A scene?" she whispered. "You brought her here." He sighed, lowering his voice. "This is business. You know how these events work." She stepped closer, her words sharp. "Business doesn't look at you the way she does." He didn't respond. He didn't have to. Inside, the orchestra swelled. The lights dimmed. The night continued as if nothing had happened. But in that silent pause between them, Maya understood the next storm wouldn't come from outside. It was already inside her home. The penthouse was too quiet. That kind of quiet that came after lies had settled, when even the air seemed afraid to move. Outside, rain pressed softly against the glass walls overlooking Central Park. Maya Ellis stood by the window, one hand on her belly, the other wrapped around a cup of chamomile tea that had long gone cold. Lucas hadn't come home again. His business meetings stretched later every night. His scent lingered less in the hallway, more in Sophie Hart's perfume. The tabloids whispered now photos of them leaving restaurants, sources claiming love stories behind closed doors. Maya had stopped defending him, even to herself. She turned off the lights, letting the city's glow fill the room. She whispered to her unborn child, "We're going to be okay, I promise." But the words tasted like fear. Then footsteps. The elevator chimed. Maya's heart lifted. Maybe he came home after all. She smoothed her hair, tried to fix her robe, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The door opened. But it wasn't Lucas. It was Sophie, dripping wet from the rain, mascara smudged, eyes red with something wild. Her heels clicked across the marble floor like gunshots. "What are you doing here?" Maya whispered. Sophie's laugh was unsteady. "He's not answering me. He's ignoring my calls." "I know he's here." Maya stepped back. "Lucas isn't home. Don't lie to me." Sophie's voice cracked. She dropped her purse, its contents spilling lipstick, car keys, a half-empty bottle of wine. "You think you've won, don't you? Because of that baby?" Maya froze. "You need to leave." Sophie's breathing grew heavier. "He told me he was leaving you. He told me everything." "Then why are you here, Sophie?" Maya asked softly. "If you really believe that, why are you standing in my house, begging for scraps of his attention?" The words hit hard. Sophie's face twisted with rage. "Don't talk to me like you're better than me." She moved fast, grabbing Maya's wrist. Maya cried out, stumbling backward into the coffee table. A vase shattered. The sound echoed like thunder through the penthouse. "Stop, I'm pregnant," Maya gasped. Sophie hesitated, but only for a second. "You always get what you want, don't you?" she hissed. Suddenly, a small voice echoed from the hallway. "Mom?" Sophie froze. It was Emma, her 12-year-old daughter, standing in the doorway with wide, terrified eyes, clutching an iPhone. "Go back to the car, Emma," Sophie shouted. But Emma didn't move. Instead, tears streamed down her face as she hit the record button. The screen flickered, capturing the chaos, the shattered glass, the screams, the panic. Sophie lunged again, shoving Maya. Maya fell to her knees, clutching her stomach, crying out in pain. Emma screamed, "Stop it, you're hurting her." And then sirens. The faint wail of police cars approaching. Emma, shaking, pressed 911. "Please, help us. Someone's hurt." Her small voice trembled through the speaker. "It's my mom. She's hurting a pregnant lady." The dispatcher replied, "Stay calm, sweetheart. Are you safe?" But before Emma could answer, the front door burst open. Lucas stepped inside, drenched from the rain, his face pale when he saw the scene before him, his wife bleeding, his mistress frozen in horror, his world collapsing in one breath. He didn't rush to Maya. He didn't reach for her hand. He just stared. "Lucas," Maya cried weakly, "help me." But his silence was louder than any scream. Emma's phone kept recording. The sirens grew louder. The screen shook. Then everything went dark. And in that darkness, one truth finally surfaced. Love was never the danger. Lies were. Blue and red lights painted the penthouse walls like war between heaven and hell. Police radios crackled. Paramedics moved quickly, their gloved hands hovering over Maya's trembling body. She was conscious but pale, her breath short, eyes half closed. "Ma'am, stay with us," one medic said, wrapping gauze around her arm. "I'm fine," she whispered weakly. "Please, my baby." Her voice broke. One of the medics nodded. "We'll take care of both of you." Lucas stood near the window, motionless, staring into the rain. His suit was soaked, his face unreadable. When an officer approached him, he barely blinked. "Mr. Vaughn, can you tell us what happened here tonight?" Lucas's voice was cold, rehearsed. "My wife had an argument with my associate. Things got heated." Your associate, the officer repeated, glancing toward Sophie Hart, who sat on the sofa wrapped in a blanket, mascara streaking down her face. Lucas didn't respond. The officer frowned. Sir, the witness states there was physical contact. There was confusion, Lucas interrupted. Everyone's emotional. My wife is pregnant. She probably slipped. At that moment, Maya lifted her head slightly from the stretcher. You're lying, she whispered hoarsely. The entire room froze. Lucas, she gasped, you let her hurt me. He didn't move. He didn't deny it. His silence was an answer she'd been dreading for months. The paramedics wheeled her out, the metallic clatter of the stretcher echoing against marble floors. Olivia arrived just in time, rushing through the door, her umbrella dripping. Oh my God, Maya, she cried, running to her friend's side. Maya reached for her hand. Don't let him bury this, she whispered. Olivia squeezed tightly. I won't. Outside, the city was still alive, neon and noise. But inside the ambulance, everything slowed. Maya watched the ceiling lights flicker above her, one after another, like distant stars. She whispered to herself, stay strong. For the baby. For the truth. By morning, the tabloids exploded. Tension at the Vaughan penthouse. Charity mogul hospitalized. Was jealousy the cause? Sources claim affair turned violent. The press didn't care about truth. They wanted spectacle. And Lucas gave it to them. At a brief press conference outside his office tower, he stood before cameras, perfect in a navy suit, voice controlled. My wife is recovering. It was a misunderstanding. We ask for privacy. The reporters pressed harder. Is it true your PR director, Sophie Hart, was involved? Lucas smiled faintly. No comment. Sophie watched from a distance, hidden behind sunglasses. Her lips trembled, but not from guilt-fear. The police had her statement. Emma's phone was missing, but she knew that recording existed somewhere. In the hospital, Maya lay awake, machines softly beeping beside her. The doctor said the baby was safe. Physically, she would heal. Emotionally, she was broken in places no scan could see. Olivia sat beside her bed, scrolling through headlines. They're spinning it against you, she said quietly. Lucas's lawyers are already saying you attacked Sophie first. Maya closed her eyes. He's trying to erase me. Olivia leaned forward. Then we don't let him. We fight back with proof. Maya turned her head slowly. The video. Olivia nodded. Emma's 911 call. If we find that phone, we find the truth. Maya's fingers gripped the blanket. Then start looking. Outside her window, dawn broke over the skyline, soft and indifferent. Somewhere in that rising light, she felt something shift, not pain, not rage, but resolve. Because for the first time, Maya wasn't afraid of losing Lucas. She was ready to face him. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and sleeplessness. Maya Ellis sat upright in bed, the pale morning light washing across her face. She looked stronger, but her eyes told another story, one of betrayal and quiet fury. The doctor had cleared her for discharge. Her baby was safe, but the scars inside her would take longer to fade. Olivia walked in with 2 coffees and a stack of newspapers under her arm. You made the front page again, she said grimly. Lucas is winning the narrative. Maya reached for the paper. The headline read, Pregnant philanthropist suffers emotional breakdown. Close source blames stress. Her lips trembled. He's turning me into the villain. Olivia nodded. He's covering his tracks. Sophie's already deleted her socials. Her PR team spinning the unstable wife angle. Maya exhaled slowly. The video, Olivia. We need Emma's phone. I tried, Olivia said, setting down her coffee. Police say the phone wasn't logged as evidence. It disappeared between the scene and the report. Disappeared? Maya repeated. Phones don't just disappear, unless someone made it disappear. The 2 women exchanged a knowing look. That afternoon, Lucas visited her hospital room. He came dressed in calm Armani suit, Rolex shining, his hair perfectly in place. The picture of composure. Maya, he said smoothly, closing the door behind him. You look better. She didn't reply. Her hands rested on her belly protectively. "I've been handling the press," he continued. "You don't need to worry about anything. I'll make sure the story dies down." She met his eyes. "You mean the story you created?" Lucas's expression didn't flinch. "I did what I had to. The world doesn't understand nuance. They need a clean version." "You mean a lie?" she whispered. He stepped closer. "It's damage control, Maya. You think I want this? I'm protecting you. Protecting the family." "The family?" she repeated bitterly. "You mean your brand." Silence. Then he placed an envelope on the bedside table. "When you're discharged, go stay at the Hamptons' house for a while. Somewhere quiet, away from the noise." She looked at the envelope cache, a key card, and a note with one sentence. "Don't make things harder." When he left, she finally let the tears fall. Not because she missed him, but because she saw him for what he truly was, a man who valued reputation more than the woman who loved him. Later that night, Olivia called. "I found something." Maya sat up. "Tell me." "Emma's been staying with her aunt upstate. I tracked down a contact from her school." The girls terrified Maya. Her mom's lawyers threatened her not to talk. "Can we reach her?" Maya asked. "I'm trying," Olivia said. "If that recording still exists, it's our only way to clear your name." Maya's heartbeat quickened. "Then we find it. Whatever it takes." But just as hope flickered, Olivia's voice faltered. "There's something else you need to see this." She texted a link. Maya clicked. Her heart sank. It was a video interview on a glossy talk show. Sophie Hart sitting under bright lights, voice trembling, pretending to cry. "She attacked me first," Sophie said on camera. "I was just defending myself. I never meant to hurt her." The audience gasped. Sympathy poured in. The headlines exploded again. Sophie Hart breaks her silence. Victim or villain? Maya watched in disbelief. "She's rewriting history." Olivia's tone hardened. "Then we write it back." Maya's hands trembled, but her eyes sharpened. The fear that once ruled her was turning into something else, fire. She whispered to herself, "If they want to play dirty, they'll see how clean truth can burn." And somewhere upstate, a scared 12-year-old girl still held the key to that truth. San. The road curved through tall pine trees, quiet and cold. Olivia's car rolled slowly along the gravel driveway toward a small farmhouse, painted white, weathered by time. The sky hung low with the weight of a coming storm. Inside the car, Maya stared out the window, one hand over her belly. She hadn't been this far from Manhattan in years. Her world had been boardrooms, galas, and penthouses. Now it was a fight for truth in places no one was watching. "Are you sure this is where she lives?" Maya asked softly. Olivia nodded. Emma's aunt confirmed. "She agreed to talk, but she's scared. Her lawyers warned her not to get involved." Maya sighed. "She's just a child caught between adults who've lost their souls." When they pulled up, the door creaked open. A woman in her 40s stood there, tired eyes, gentle smile. "You must be Maya," she said. "I'm Clara. Emma's inside." They followed her into a warm living room filled with the scent of vanilla candles. Emma sat on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, holding an iPhone with a cracked screen. "The same one from that night." "Emma," Maya said softly, sitting across from her. "I know this is hard. I just need to know what happened." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean to film it. I just wanted someone to help." "You did the right thing," Maya whispered. Emma looked down. "They took my phone. Said I wasn't allowed to talk about it. But I had a backup." Maya's heart skipped. "A backup?" Emma nodded, sliding the phone toward Olivia. "It's in the cloud. I saved it before they erased it." Olivia connected the phone to her MacBook, hands shaking. The loading bar moved painfully slow. And then the screen flickered. The video appeared. The sound came first, shouting, breaking glass, Maya's cries. The image was blurry but clear enough. Sophie attacking, Lucas entering, watching. His voice cold, detached. "What did you do?" Maya covered her mouth. tears falling silently. "This is it," Olivia said. "This is everything." Clara placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. "You can use this. Clear your name. But be careful. That man has money and power. He'll try to bury it again." Maya nodded slowly. "Then we make sure he can't." That evening, they drove back to the city. The storm finally broke, rain slashing across the windshield. Olivia's headlights cut through the darkness as Maya stared ahead, eyes burning with quiet determination. "You know he'll come after us," Olivia said. "He already did," Maya replied. "Now it's my turn." She opened her phone, typing a message to an old contact, a journalist named Rachel Klein from the New York Ledger. Rachel had once covered Maya's charity events, but she also hated corporate hypocrisy. Maya wrote, "I have something you'll want to see. A story the Vaughn Foundation can't silence." Rachel replied within minutes, "Meet me tomorrow. Bring proof." Back in Manhattan, Lucas sat in his penthouse office overlooking the city lights. Sophie paced behind him, restless. "She's not staying quiet," Sophie hissed. "I saw her name trending again. People are starting to question the story." Lucas didn't look up from his laptop. "Let them. They'll forget in a week. And if they don't," he finally turned to her, eyes sharp. "Then we make them forget." Sophie froze. "What do you mean?" He smiled, thin and dangerous. "Everyone has a price, even reporters." But what Lucas didn't know, what would change everything, was that the truth was already on its way to the surface. As Maya's car approached the Manhattan skyline, thunder cracked above the city. She placed a hand on her stomach and whispered, "We're almost there." And for the first time, she wasn't just surviving, she was preparing for war. The morning light stretched across Manhattan like a promise waiting to be broken. Maya Ellis stood before the mirror in her bedroom at the Plaza Hotel, her reflection calm but sharp, like glass that had survived a storm. The bruises had faded, the fear had not. But fear was no longer her master, it was her weapon. Her hair framed her face perfectly, makeup subtle yet precise. She wore a tailored black dress that hugged her figure with quiet authority. On her wrist, a Cartier watch ticked softly, each second a countdown to justice. Olivia stepped out from the adjoining suite, holding a silver laptop. "It's ready," she said. Maya turned. Rachel confirmed the feature. Olivia nodded. "Front page tomorrow morning. The Ledger's releasing everything, the video, the transcripts, the 911 call, and the timeline." Maya exhaled. "Good. Let the truth speak for itself." But Olivia hesitated. "Are you sure you want to do this now? You're still carrying his child." Maya's eyes hardened. "I'm not doing it to hurt him. I'm doing it so my child grows up knowing their mother didn't stay silent." She picked up her phone. Notifications buzzed, text messages, calls, interview requests. The storm was already forming. That evening, the Vaughn Foundation hosted another charity event at the Ritz-Carlton. Cameras lined the red carpet. Lucas arrived first, perfect in his tuxedo, smiling for reporters. Sophie followed a few minutes later, in a gown that screamed redemption. "Any comments on your wife's recovery, Mr. Vaughn?" one reporter asked. Lucas smiled. "Maya's resting. She won't be attending tonight." But then the crowd stirred. Heads turned. Gasps rippled through the press line. Maya Ellis stepped out of a black Mercedes. Every camera flashed at once. She walked slowly, gracefully. The city's most powerful woman reborn from scandal. The black dress shimmered under the lights, and for the first time, she didn't look broken, she looked inevitable. Lucas froze. Sophie's smile cracked. Maya walked straight toward them. "Hello, Lucas," she said softly, her tone razor sharp. "Maya, what are you doing here?" he whispered through clenched teeth. "Attending your event," she said. "After all, we built this foundation together." Before he could respond, Olivia appeared beside her, holding the laptop. Rachel Klein, the journalist, followed with a camera crew. "Mr. Vaughn," Rachel said, her voice steady, "would you like to comment on the video your wife just released?" Lucas's face went pale. "What video?" Maya tilted her head. "The one where you watched me being attacked and did nothing." The room erupted, reporters shouting questions, flashes exploding. Sophie turned white, whispering, "You wouldn't." But Maya already had. On every screen around the ballroom, the footage began to play. The chaos, the shouting, the moment Lucas stepped in and stood still. His silence. Her pain. The truth. Gasps filled the air. Sponsors whispered. Investors turned away. Lucas lunged toward the laptop, hissing, "You're destroying me." Maya stepped back, calm and steady. "No, Lucas. You destroyed yourself." The security team moved in, escorting Sophie away as reporters swarmed. Olivia stayed close to Maya, whispering, "It's over." Maya looked around the glittering room, her former world now collapsing in real time. "No," she said softly. "It's just beginning." Hours later, she stood on the terrace, overlooking Central Park. The city was alive again, but for her, it was quiet, finally quiet. She rested a hand on her stomach, feeling the steady rhythm of life inside. Behind her, Olivia joined her, handing her a cup of coffee. "You did it." Maya smiled faintly. "No. We did it." She looked out into the night, the skyline glittering like 1,000 second chances. And for the first time, she wasn't the billionaire's wife. She was the woman who turned her pain into power. The city woke up to headlines that scorched across every screen, every phone, every whisper of gossip. Vaughn empire crumbles. Scandal exposed by billionaire's pregnant wife. 911, call confirms cover. Up. Lucas Vaughn, under investigation. Maya Ellis sat by the window of her suite at the Plaza Hotel, watching the chaos unfold from 20 stories above. Down below, paparazzi crowded the entrance, their cameras flashing like hungry lightning. Olivia entered with 2 cups of coffee and a cautious smile. "You're trending everywhere." Number Maya Ellis Truth is at 2 million posts already. Maya took the cup but didn't smile back. "They're not celebrating me, Olivia. They're consuming me. Scandals feed them." "Maybe," Olivia said gently, sitting across from her. "But sometimes, the truth needs noise to survive." Maya nodded, her gaze distant. The footage from last night had gone viral in less than an hour. Networks played it on repeat. News anchors dissected it. Commentators argued about morality, loyalty, power. For years, Lucas Vaughn had built his empire on the illusion of virtue. Now, it was crumbling before the entire world's eyes. At Vaughn Global's glass tower on Park Avenue, chaos reigned. Reporters swarmed the lobby. Employees whispered in hallways. The board of directors held an emergency meeting. Lucas stormed into his office, jaw tight, phone pressed to his ear. "Shut it down," he barked. "Take the video off every platform." His publicist's voice cracked through the line. "Sir, it's everywhere. It's on Reddit, TikTok, even news outlets. We can't contain it." He slammed the phone down, breathing hard. Sophie stood near the window, shaking. "They're calling me a monster," she whispered. "They're threatening me online. I can't even go outside." Lucas shot her a cold look. "You are a monster. You brought this into my home." She stared at him, stunned. "You told me to stay quiet. You said you'd handle it." "I didn't mean ruin everything," he snapped. "You think I can fix this now?" Tears welled in her eyes. "You said you loved me." He laughed bitterly. "I said a lot of things." Sophie's voice turned sharp. "If I go down, Lucas, I'm taking you with me." His glare hardened. "Don't test me." The silence between them was colder than the skyline outside. By noon, federal investigators arrived at Vaughn Global. They carried folders, subpoenas, and quiet authority. Lucas's assistant watched as they entered his office. One of them said simply, "Mr. Vaughn, you're needed for questioning." The news hit the media in minutes. Maya's phone buzzed nonstop. Olivia read the update aloud. The FBI's investigating financial fraud tied to his foundation. The video opened more than one door. Maya's lips pressed into a thin line. "Good. Let the truth breathe." Olivia nodded, then hesitated. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Maya looked out at the Manhattan skyline. "I've already lived through the worst part, believing his lies. Everything else is just paperwork." She turned back to Olivia, her voice steady but soft. I don't want revenge. I want closure. Olivia smiled faintly. And maybe a little justice. Justice, Maya agreed. For every woman who's ever been silenced. That night, as the city glittered beneath the rain, Maya opened her laptop. Her inbox overflowed with messages from women she'd never met, thanking her for speaking out. Some shared their own stories. Others simply wrote, "You gave me courage." She leaned back, eyes glassy with quiet pride. Down below, a news ticker scrolled across Times Square. Maya Ellis launches foundation for victims of corporate abuse. And for the first time, the name Vaughn no longer defined her, it haunted him. The winter wind carried the city's noise like a restless memory. Maya Ellis walked through the marble lobby of the courthouse, her heels echoing sharply against the floor. Cameras flashed outside the glass doors, reporters shouting her name. But this time, she didn't look away. She wore a tailored navy trench coat, hair tied in a sleek bun, eyes hidden behind dark Dior sunglasses. Every inch of her radiated control. She wasn't just showing up for justice, she was reclaiming her story. Olivia walked beside her, holding a portfolio filled with evidence. "Lucas's hearing starts at 10, she said quietly. His lawyers filed for image protection, but the judge denied it. The video will be admissible." Maya nodded, her face calm. "Good. No more hiding." When they entered the courtroom, the air was thick with tension. Lucas sat at the defense table, immaculate in his designer suit, his jaw tight, his hands clasped. Sophie Hart sat behind him, pale and shaken, her once perfect image fractured under the harsh lights of truth. As Maya took her seat, Lucas looked over. For a split second, something flickered in his eyes, fear. The judge entered. Court is now in session. The prosecutor began methodically, laying out the timeline, the gala, the attack, the 911 call, and the missing phone. Then came the video. When the screen lit up, the room fell silent. The shaky footage filled the air, the shouting, the crash, the sound of Maya's voice pleading, "I'm pregnant." Then Lucas's stillness, the moment the world had judged him for. Reporters scribbled notes. Sophie buried her face in her hands. Lucas sat motionless, every flicker of his reputation burning away. When the lights came back on, Maya kept her gaze forward. The judge turned to Lucas. "Mr. Vaughn, this evidence contradicts your earlier statement. Do you wish to respond?" Lucas's lawyer whispered in his ear, but he didn't move. For the first time, the billionaire had nothing to say. Outside, the courthouse steps became a battlefield of flashing lights and shouted questions. Olivia helped Maya through the crowd. "You don't have to answer anyone," she said. But Maya stopped. She turned toward the cameras. The journalists fell silent. "My name is Maya Ellis," she began, voice steady. "For months, I was silenced by fear, by love, and by lies. But truth doesn't die quietly. It waits." She looked straight into the nearest lens. "This isn't just my story. It's every woman's story who's been told to stay quiet to protect a man's empire. I'm done protecting the wrong people." The crowd erupted in applause, not the hollow kind that fades, but the kind that starts movements. That night, the news channels replayed her speech across every network. Commentators called it the moment of the year. Donations flooded into the New Dawn Foundation, her new nonprofit for victims of power abuse. Maya sat in her suite, finally at peace. Olivia poured her a glass of sparkling water and said, "You've done it, Maya. You've changed everything." But Maya shook her head. "Not everything. There's still the child to protect, and a legacy to rebuild, one with integrity this time." She walked to the window, looking out at the city lights glittering against the night. "You know what's funny?" she murmured. "They tried to break me, but all they did was strip away everything false." Olivia smiled softly. "So, who are you now?" Maya turned, eyes fierce, unflinching. "Exactly who I was meant to be." Outside, snow began to fall over the city that once pitied her. Now, it whispered her name with reverence. Because Maya Ellis wasn't the victim anymore, she was the verdict. See, the spring sun spilled across the glass towers of Manhattan, golden and forgiving. Maya Ellis stepped out of a black car in front of the River Cafe in Brooklyn, where the skyline shimmered across the East River like a memory finally made whole. Her life had changed in ways no headline could summarize. She was no longer the billionaire's wife. She was the CEO of her own destiny. The New Dawn Foundation had become a national movement. Survivors from every background were speaking up, inspired by her courage. Corporate sponsors who once avoided her name now lined up to work with her. Maya had turned scandal into strength and pain into purpose. Inside the cafe, journalists and cameras waited for her first official interview since the trial. Olivia adjusted the microphone on Maya's lapel. "You ready for this?" she asked quietly. Maya smiled faintly. "I've been ready my whole life." The interviewer, Rachel Klein, leaned forward, professional yet warm. "Maya, 6 months ago, you were the woman everyone pitied. Today, you're the woman everyone admires. How does that feel?" Maya paused, considering. "It feels honest. For the first time, I'm living a life that's mine. Not one that looks perfect on paper but bleeds behind closed doors." Rachel nodded. "Do you ever think about Lucas?" Maya looked out the window at the skyline. "Sometimes. Not with anger, though. More like looking at an old photograph you remember. But you don't belong there anymore." Rachel smiled softly. "And Sophie?" Maya's voice cooled slightly. "I hope she finds peace. I learned the hard way that people who destroy others are usually already broken." The interview continued, thoughtful and raw. When it ended, applause broke out from the small crew. Maya stood, thanking everyone politely, her composure intact, but when she stepped outside, the breeze caught her hair, and for a brief moment, she felt the simple freedom of existing without fear. Later that afternoon, she walked along the promenade with Olivia. Tourists snapped photos, boats drifted by, and somewhere nearby, a street musician played a slow jazz tune on a saxophone. "You did great," Olivia said. "That clip's going to trend in an hour." Maya chuckled softly. "If it helps one woman speak up, it's worth it." They stopped by a small flower stand. Maya picked a single white tulip, the same kind she used to arrange in her penthouse when everything felt fragile. She handed it to Olivia. "For you. For staying when no one else did." Olivia smiled, eyes glistening. "Always." As they walked away, Maya's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. "Thank you for saving me." Attached was a photo of a woman holding her child, smiling. Maya's throat tightened. The message was from one of the women her foundation had helped. She turned the phone toward Olivia. "This is why we keep going." Across the city, Lucas Vaughn sat in his lawyer's office. His empire was gone, companies sold, assets frozen. The man who once controlled everything now lived on borrowed time and reputation. A news alert flashed across his phone. Maya Ellis honored for leadership in women's advocacy. He stared at the screen, expression hollow. Sophie was long gone. His friends had disappeared. And the silence of consequence filled the room. For the first time, Lucas understood what loss truly meant. That night, back at her apartment overlooking the Hudson, Maya stood on her balcony. The city glowed below, alive and endless. She placed her hand over her belly. Her baby was due in a few weeks. She whispered softly, "You'll be born into a world where truth matters." Then she looked toward the skyline, her eyes clear, her heart unbroken, because the woman they once tried to destroy had become unstoppable, and the comeback had just begun. The ballroom of the plaza shimmered beneath chandeliers like frozen stars. Gold linens, crystal glasses, and 1,000 cameras filled the room. It was the first New Dawn Foundation Gala, a night celebrating rebirth, survival, and courage. Maya Ellis stood backstage, her reflection glowing softly in the mirror. Her dress, an elegant silver Dior gown, draped perfectly over her frame. The child she'd carried through every storm was now 3 months old, sleeping peacefully in the nursery upstairs. She adjusted the diamond pendant at her neck, the only piece of jewelry she'd kept from her marriage, not as a memory of Lucas, but as a reminder of what she'd endured. Olivia entered, smiling. "They're ready for you," she said gently. Maya took a slow breath. Let's give them something real. As she stepped onto the stage, applause thundered through the ballroom. Celebrities, politicians, and activists rose to their feet. Cameras flashed, recording every step, but this time, the attention didn't frighten her. It belonged to her now. "Good evening," she began, her voice warm and calm. "A year ago, I stood in rooms like this one, but for very different reasons. I was the woman behind a man whose empire was built on illusion. Tonight, I stand here as my own name, my own story." The audience leaned in. "I learned that silence is a luxury victims can't afford. That truth costs everything, but it buys freedom. And freedom is priceless." Applause erupted again. Maya smiled, glancing toward Olivia in the front row. She continued, "The New Dawn Foundation isn't about one woman's pain. It's about every woman who's been told to smile through betrayal, to stay quiet for appearances, to shrink so someone else can shine. Not anymore." The crowd rose again, clapping, some even wiping tears. After her speech, the orchestra began to play, and guests mingled beneath the glow of chandeliers. Maya moved through the crowd gracefully, accepting congratulations. Reporters surrounded her, microphones raised. "Maya, how does it feel to reclaim your story so publicly?" She smiled. "It feels like breathing again." Another reporter asked, "Any words for your ex-husband, Lucas Vaughn?" Her expression didn't change. "I wish him clarity. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself." Olivia appeared beside her, handing her a glass of sparkling water. "You handled that perfectly," she said quietly. Maya laughed softly. "I've had practice." Across the city, in a quiet apartment lit only by television glow, Lucas watched the gala broadcast alone. He looked older, the sharpness of his face dulled by regret. When Maya appeared on screen, radiant and composed, he reached for the remote but didn't change the channel. For a moment, he whispered, "You won." And maybe, deep down, he knew she deserved to. Later that night, after the final speech and applause faded, Maya slipped out onto the terrace. The city stretched before her, a canvas of light. Olivia joined her, holding a small envelope. "What's this?" Maya asked. Olivia smiled. "A letter from one of the women your foundation helped. She says your story gave her courage to leave her abuser." Maya unfolded the note. The handwriting was shaky, emotional. "You saved me without knowing me. Thank you for proving strength can be soft." Her eyes welled with tears. This is why we do it." Olivia nodded. "You turned your pain into power, Maya." "Not everyone can." Maya looked out at the skyline, her heart steady. "I didn't survive to be bitter. I survived to build something better." The orchestra inside began playing again, a slow, elegant waltz. Maya smiled softly, whispering, "Let the music play." Because tonight wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about redemption, and the woman who rose higher than anyone ever expected. The storm broke over Manhattan like a long-held breath finally released. Lightning slashed across the skyline, thunder rumbling between the glass towers. Inside her penthouse overlooking the Hudson, Maya Ellis sat in silence, a cup of chamomile tea untouched beside her. The news played softly on the TV, another headline flashing her name. "Former billionaire Lucas Vaughn faces trial for fraud and perjury." Her chest rose and fell in steady rhythm. She had waited for this moment not with anger, but with a strange, quiet peace. Justice wasn't loud. It arrived in whispers, in court filings, in headlines that finally told the truth. The baby monitor on the counter crackled softly. Her son stirred upstairs, letting out a sleepy sigh. Maya smiled faintly. "You're safe now," she whispered. "You'll never know the darkness I lived through." The elevator chimed. Olivia stepped in, umbrella dripping from the rain. "It's official," she said, shaking off her coat. "Lucas is facing criminal charges. The foundation's lawyers confirmed it. The prosecutors want you to testify next week." Maya nodded. "I will." Olivia studied her face. "Are you sure you can handle seeing him again?" "I handled his betrayal," Maya said softly. "I can handle his apology or his downfall." She walked to the window, looking down at the river reflecting flashes of lightning. "You know, There was a time I would have done anything to save him, but some people don't want to be saved, they want control. Olivia approached quietly. And now? Maya's gaze hardened. Now I want peace. Not revenge. Peace. Across the city, Lucas Vaughn sat in a cold conference room surrounded by lawyers. His empire had crumbled, buildings foreclosed, investors fled, and his once glittering name now trailed a shadow of scandal. His lead attorney, a man too expensive to be hopeful, placed a folder on the table. You're out of options. The plea deal stands. Confess, repay, and maybe you'll see daylight again. Lucas's jaw tightened. And if I don't, then you'll be remembered as a fraud, not a founder. He stared out the rain-smeared window, voice low. I already am. His reflection stared back, a man who'd traded love for vanity, truth for illusion. Somewhere deep inside, regret began to grow, slow and poisonous. The following morning, Maya received a letter handwritten, unmarked. She hesitated before opening it. Maya, you were right about everything. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I've told the truth. About Sophie, about the foundation, about the money. You deserved better than me. You always did. L. Maya read it twice, then set it aside. No tears came, only release. Olivia walked in. What's that? Closure, Maya said simply. That night, she sat on the terrace as the storm cleared. The city glowed beneath the wet pavement, alive and breathing again. She took out her phone and opened the Notes app. Her fingers began to type words that came from somewhere deeper than memory, her first book, The Woman Who Refused to Stay Silent. Every chapter would tell the truth, not just about Lucas, but about survival, about motherhood, about rebuilding after ruin. Her baby cried softly upstairs. She rose, walking to the nursery. The small room glowed in soft amber light. She picked him up, holding him against her heart. You're my new beginning, she whispered. He smiled in his sleep, and for the first time, Maya truly believed it. Down the hall, Olivia scrolled through news updates. Lucas Vaughn pleads guilty. Faces 10 years. She looked toward Maya's room, smiling to herself. The reckoning had come not with fury, but with truth. And sometimes, that was the most powerful justice of all. The city was soft that morning. Golden sunlight spilled through the tall windows of Maya Ellis's apartment, dancing across the walls like forgiveness, finally finding a place to rest. The chaos had ended, but the quiet felt unfamiliar, like learning how to breathe again after years underwater. Her son, Leo, slept peacefully in his crib, wrapped in a pale blue blanket. The gentle rise and fall of his chest was the rhythm that kept her grounded. Maya sat beside him, her laptop open, typing the final pages of her book. She whispered aloud as she wrote, "Healing doesn't erase the past. It teaches you how to live with it." There was a knock at the door. Olivia entered, holding a stack of mail and 2 Starbucks coffees. "Your caffeine lifeline," she said with a grin. Maya smiled. "You're an angel." "I know," Olivia teased, setting the cups down. "You've got a letter from the state prison." Maya froze, fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Lucas," Olivia nodded quietly. "You don't have to read it." But Maya reached for the envelope anyway. Her hands didn't shake. The seal broke cleanly. The handwriting was unmistakable, precise, elegant, almost desperate. "Maya, every night, I replay that moment, the look in your eyes, the silence that followed. I built my world on power and forgot the people who built me. I know no apology can rebuild what I destroyed, but I needed to tell you that I finally see you, not the version the media made, not the role I forced you into. You deserved more than my name. You deserved peace. I hope you found it. Lucas." Maya folded the letter gently and set it aside. For a long moment, she said nothing. Olivia watched her carefully. "How do you feel?" Maya smiled faintly. "Lighter, not because he said sorry, but because I don't need it anymore." Later that day, Maya and Olivia took a walk through Central Park. The air smelled of spring and new beginnings. Joggers passed by. Couples picnicked under budding cherry trees. The city that once felt like a cage now looked like a home. Reporters still followed her story. but their tone had changed. She wasn't the billionaire's broken wife anymore. She was Maya Ellis, the woman who rebuilt herself from ashes. They stopped at a bench overlooking the lake. Olivia handed her a small manila folder. "These are the final papers. The divorce is officially closed. You're free." Maya exhaled, the words sinking in like sunlight through skin. "Free," she repeated softly. She opened her phone and checked her emails. The publishing company had confirmed the release date for her memoir. It would debut in the fall, coinciding with the anniversary of the night everything fell apart. "The Woman Who Refused to Stay Silent." Olivia read over her shoulder. "You sure you're ready to share all that?" Maya nodded. "People think healing is about forgetting, but I want them to remember to understand that survival isn't about being unhurt. It's about standing up anyway." A soft breeze swept through the park. Maya looked up at the sunlight flickering through the leaves. "I used to think my story ended the night he betrayed me," she said quietly. "But maybe that was just the prologue." Olivia smiled. "Then what's the title of the next chapter?" Maya turned to her, eyes bright. "The Light After the Storm." That evening, back at her apartment, Maya watched Leo sleeping in the golden haze of dusk. She whispered, "You'll grow up knowing that love isn't control, it's freedom." The skyline shimmered outside, alive, honest, and endless. Because even after everything, Maya Ellis had found what no empire could give her: peace, truth, and her own light. Woo! Autumn swept through Manhattan in gold and amber, the kind of season that reminded people that endings could be beautiful too. The streets glowed under soft afternoon light, and the skyline shimmered with quiet energy. Maya Ellis sat at her desk in her new office on Park Avenue, a modern space filled with books, flowers, and photos of the women her foundation had helped. On the wall behind her hung a simple inscription: "From Pain, Purpose." Her assistant knocked gently and entered with an envelope. "This just arrived for you." Hand delivered. Maya looked up from her laptop. "Who's it from?" The assistant hesitated. "It doesn't say. But it looks formal." Maya took the thick ivory envelope and opened it carefully. Inside was a gold-embossed invitation: the Global Women's Leadership Summit, the Plaza Hotel, Grand Ballroom, keynote speaker, Maya Ellis. She blinked in disbelief. "They want me to give the keynote?" Olivia, who just stepped into the office, smiled wide. "You earned it. The world wants to hear you again." Maya set the invitation down, her mind swirling. It would be her biggest appearance, yet an international audience, live-streamed worldwide. A chance to speak not just as a survivor, but as a leader. Still, a quiet hesitation tugged at her chest. "What if I'm not ready?" Olivia shook her head. "You're past ready. You've lived what every woman in that room is still trying to find the strength to start over." That night, Maya sat by the window of her apartment overlooking the Hudson, the invitation resting on her lap. Leo slept soundly in the next room, his baby monitor playing the faint hum of his breathing. She picked up her journal and began to write something she hadn't done since finishing her book. "A year ago, I was defined by what broke me. Now I'm defined by what I built. Maybe courage isn't loud. Maybe it's just the quiet decision to rise again every morning." She closed the journal, exhaled, and whispered to herself, "Yes, I'll do it." The week of the summit arrived quickly. The plaza's grand ballroom was once again a temple of light and wealth: crystal chandeliers, white roses, a sea of designer gowns and suits. But tonight wasn't about appearances. It was about truth. Maya stood backstage, wearing a tailored white gown that symbolized rebirth. Olivia adjusted the microphone on her collar. "You nervous?" she asked. Maya smiled. "I'm alive." "That's enough." The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. "Please welcome our keynote speaker, Maya Ellis." Applause thundered as she walked onto the stage. The crowd rose to its feet. Every flash of a camera, every heartbeat in the room felt like a second chance. She began softly. "When I was younger, I believed strength meant silence, that survival meant pretending you weren't broken. But I've learned something different." She paused, meeting the gaze of hundreds of women. "Strength isn't silence. It's speaking even when your voice shakes. The audience leaned forward, listening to every word. I lost everything, my marriage, my reputation, my safety. But I gained something worth more, the truth. And the truth, when spoken, doesn't destroy you, it frees you. Tears glimmered in a few eyes across the room. Cameras zoomed in on her face, calm, radiant, unafraid. She ended her speech with a quiet smile. To every woman here, your story is not over. It's just waiting for you to tell it. The hall erupted in applause. Some stood, some cried, but everyone felt it. The power of survival turned into purpose. As she stepped off the stage, Olivia met her with open arms. You did it. Maya smiled, eyes shining. No, she said softly. We did it. And in that moment, Maya Ellis wasn't just the woman who survived the storm, she was the one who taught others how to walk through it. The applause of the summit had faded, replaced by headlines celebrating Maya Ellis as the voice of modern resilience. Her speech had gone viral, replayed millions of times across social media. Donations to the New Dawn Foundation tripled. Interviews poured in from London, Tokyo, and Los Angeles. But success, Maya learned, carried its own kind of silence. The world moved on quickly, but ghosts didn't. That morning, as sunlight streamed across her office, Olivia entered holding a thin, unmarked package. This came for you, she said carefully. No return address. Maya frowned. Probably another letter from a survivor. But when she opened the box, her hands froze. Inside was a silver Mont Blanc pen, the same model Lucas used to sign their wedding contract years ago. Beneath it, a folded note written in his distinct handwriting. I know I don't belong in your world anymore, but I'm trying to make amends. I've started a charity inside the prison helping men take accountability. They call it the second step. You inspired it. Maya stared at the letter for a long time. Then she whispered, he's still trying to fix what he broke. Olivia crossed her arms. Don't let him back in, Maya. Closure doesn't mean reopening the door. I know, Maya said softly. But maybe people can change. Just not for me, maybe for themselves. That evening, Maya returned home to her apartment. Leo was crawling now, laughing as his babysitter clapped beside him. She knelt down, scooping him into her arms, feeling the warmth of his tiny heartbeat against her chest. For a moment, the world felt simple again, just a mother and her son. Then the doorbell rang. Olivia's voice echoed from the intercom. Maya, turn on Channel 7. Maya switched on the television. The newscaster's voice cut through the room. Breaking news. Former billionaire Lucas Vaughn hospitalized after prison assault. The words hit like thunder. Maya sank onto the couch, her heart pounding. The screen showed grainy footage of flashing lights outside a correctional facility. The anchor continued. Sources say Vaughn was attacked by another inmate earlier today. He remains in critical condition. Olivia's voice came through again. I'm coming over. An hour later, Olivia sat beside Maya as the rain began to fall outside the window. You don't owe him anything, Olivia said gently. You gave him the truth. That was mercy enough. Maya stared out into the rain. I know, but part of me wishes it hadn't come to this. Silence stretched between them. Then Maya said quietly, maybe redemption isn't about being forgiven, it's about finally facing what you've done. The next morning, Maya visited the hospital. The nurse at the desk recognized her immediately but said nothing, only nodded respectfully. Inside the dim room, Lucas lay motionless, pale, connected to monitors that beeped softly. His once polished hands now bore the weight of consequence. Maya stood at the doorway, unsure whether to step closer. You always wanted control, she whispered, even when it destroyed you. She placed the Mont Blanc pen on the bedside table beside his letter. You once used this to build an empire. Maybe now you'll use your story to build something real. She didn't stay long. Some goodbyes didn't need witnesses. Outside, the morning air was sharp, the city alive again. Olivia waited near the car. How was it? Maya exhaled slowly. Necessary. As they drove away, Maya looked back one last time at the hospital fading into the distance. Later that evening, She wrote a new chapter for her upcoming book. The first line read, "Even the people who hurt us can become mirrors, showing us who we refuse to be again." She saved the file, closed her laptop, and whispered, "Goodbye, Lucas." And with that, the last shadow of her past finally disappeared into the light. The Hudson River shimmered like melted gold under the evening Sunday. From her new office overlooking the skyline, Maya Ellis watched the reflection of the city she'd learned to both survive and love again. Her memoir, The Woman Who Refused to Stay Silent, had just hit the New York Times bestseller list for the 8th consecutive week. She closed her laptop, exhaling softly. Success felt different now, quiet, rooted, earned. Olivia entered, holding 2 cups of coffee. "They want you for another morning show next week," she said, smiling. "And the publisher just confirmed your European tour." Maya took a cup. "You know what's funny? A year ago, I couldn't walk into a grocery store without whispers. Now they're calling me an inspiration." Olivia chuckled. "You are an inspiration," Maya smiled, shaking her head. "No. I'm just proof that pain doesn't get to keep the last word." Later that evening, Maya returned home to her apartment overlooking Central Park. The city below glowed like a constellation of second chances. Leo was playing on the carpet, stacking colorful blocks while humming to himself. She sat beside him, kissing his soft hair. "You're growing too fast," she whispered. Leo looked up, babbling something that sounded like, "Mama happy?" Maya's heart melted. "Yes, baby. Mama's happy." Her phone buzzed a call from her publicist. "Maya, you've been invited to the Global Peace Forum next month. They want you to deliver the closing speech." She laughed softly. "Me? A peace forum? You've earned it. They said your story embodies transformation." When the call ended, Maya looked out the window, the skyline stretching endlessly beyond. She whispered, "Transformation." That night, Olivia joined her for dinner at the River Cafe, the same place where they'd done her first interview after the trial. Candlelight flickered across the table, and jazz floated softly through the air. "To peace," Olivia toasted. Maya raised her glass. "And to new beginnings." As they ate, Maya's gaze drifted toward the skyline, the same one she used to see from the penthouse she'd once called home. But this view felt purer, freer. "I used to think strength was about fighting," she said quietly. "But it's really about releasing, letting go, forgiving yourself, and choosing peace even when no one apologizes." Olivia smiled. "You've come full circle, Maya. Maybe. But this time, I'm not standing in anyone's shadow." They clinked glasses, and for a moment, everything felt still perfectly, beautifully still. The next morning, Maya took Leo for a walk through Central Park. The leaves rustled above them, golden and alive. A few people stopped her along the path, offering kind words and gratitude. One woman, holding her daughter's hand, said, "You made me brave enough to leave." Maya smiled, touched. "You made yourself brave. I just reminded you that you could." When they reached the Bethesda Terrace, Maya sat on a bench, holding Leo as he giggled at the pigeons. A street musician nearby played a gentle tune on a violin, something soft and hopeful. She thought of the past, the nights of pain, the betrayal, the trial, the rebirth. All of it had shaped her, but none of it defined her anymore. She whispered, "We're finally free." Leo reached for her necklace, laughing, his tiny hand gripping the symbol of her new life, a small gold pendant engraved with one word, truth. As the sun dipped below the skyline, Maya stood, lifting Leo into her arms. The city lights flickered on, one by one, like silent applause for the woman who refused to break. She looked out over the glowing horizon, heart steady, eyes bright, because for Maya Ellis, tomorrow was no longer a fear to survive, it was a promise to keep. The ocean murmured softly against the shore, waves rolling in slow rhythm like the steady heartbeat of peace. The morning air carried salt, sunlight, and the faint promise of forever. Maya Ellis stood on the deck of her beach house, barefoot, wrapped in a soft linen robe. The horizon stretched endlessly before her, painted in gold and lavender. Leo played nearby in the sand, chasing the tide with giggles that filled the quiet with joy. This was home now, simple, honest, free. Olivia appeared behind her, 2 steaming mugs in hand. "Coffee," she said, handing one over. Maya smiled. "You read my mind." Olivia leaned on the railing beside her. "You know, this might be the first time in years I've seen you completely still." Maya looked out at the sea. "Stillness used to scare me. I thought if I stopped moving, the pain would catch up. But now, it just feels like peace." Olivia nodded. "The world hasn't forgotten you, you know. Your foundation's opening branches in 3 countries next year. You've built something that matters." Maya chuckled softly. "Something that lasts longer than scandal." She took a sip of coffee, letting the warmth settle in. "Do you remember the first time I told you I wanted to leave Lucas?" Olivia smiled. "You said you wanted to breathe again." "And I finally am," Maya said, without asking permission. Inside, the beach house was filled with morning light white walls, bookshelves lined with philosophy and poetry, and framed photos of women smiling at foundation events. On the mantel sat a small silver frame, Maya holding Leo in her arms on the day her book launch hit #1. She picked it up, running her thumb across the glass. "He'll never remember what we went through," she whispered, "but he'll know what we became." Olivia turned to her. "So, what's next? Another book? Maybe a documentary?" Maya shook her head. "Something quieter. Maybe teach. Maybe just live." They laughed softly. The simplicity of it all felt like luxury. Later that afternoon, Maya walked along the shoreline with Leo toddling beside her, his tiny footprints chasing hers in the sand. A few locals waved from a distance. Everyone knew her face but respected her solitude. A seagull soared above them, its wings catching the light. Leo pointed up, laughing. "Bird," Maya smiled. "Yes, baby, fly high." She paused, watching him. In his laughter, she found everything she'd lost and everything she'd rebuilt. As the sun began to set, Maya sat at her writing desk facing the sea. She opened her journal, its pages filled with pieces of her life, fragments of strength, and lessons carved from heartbreak. She began to write. "For the women who were told they were too broken to begin again, this is proof that broken things can still shine. That love after betrayal exists, even if it's just the love you find within yourself." A tear slipped down her cheek, not from sadness, but from gratitude. Olivia entered quietly, carrying Leo in her arms. "It's almost bedtime," she said softly. Maya smiled. "Give me 1 minute." She looked back at the ocean one last time. The horizon glowed with the last light of day. Then she closed the journal and whispered, "We made it." Later that night, after Leo fell asleep, Maya stepped outside. The moon shimmered on the water. She closed her eyes, feeling the cool wind against her face. No headlines, no pain, no ghosts, just life. Because the woman who once survived the fire didn't just rebuild, she learned to rise with the dawn. And as the first stars blinked above the sea, Maya Ellis smiled, finally unbroken, finally free. So, that's how our story ends. Hey, my dear friends, if you're still here right now, it means something in this story touched you. Maybe not the drama, not the betrayal, but that quiet part at the end, the part about healing, about standing up again after everything tried to break you. You see, Maya's journey isn't just hers, it's ours. Every one of us has faced moments when we lost ourselves trying to please the wrong people or protect something already gone. But like the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, the obstacle is the way. The pain, the fall, the silence, it's all part of the path that shapes us into who we're meant to be. So if you're fighting your own storm tonight, remember, you're not broken, you're being rebuilt. Healing doesn't happen when the past disappears. It happens when you finally decide to stop running from it. If this story gave you strength, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with us, because here, we don't just tell stories. We remind each other how to rise again. And maybe, just maybe, that's where real peace begins.